Ingredients. Carrot. Gotta respect that. Damn, Gina!
What is that?
Oh, it's the sloppy Jessica. Mac and cheese, chili pizza on a bun. It's everything I've wanted to eat for the last 48 hours.
Oh, that looks so gross.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish, where this week we're taking a look at the single carrot from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. First,
Carrot! I can cook that. I just take it out of the bag and I'm done.
we're going to take a single baby carrot, give it a good looking at, appreciate it, all of its curves and complexities. Let's see how it tastes. Oh, wow, it tastes exactly like a carrot. Screw this. Let's make the Sloppy
Wowzers.
Jessica. The Sloppy Jessica is Gina's abomination that combines chili, macaroni and cheese, and pizza on a bun. So we've made chili a few times on the show before, so we're going to make a relatively basic chili. We're starting with the usual routine of soaking some dried ancho chilies in boiling water for 10 minutes before adding a few teaspoons each of cumin, ground coriander seed, paprika, 1 or 2 canned chipotles, and adobo sauce, depending on your level of heat tolerance.
Don't buy a chipotle pepper. Like a chipotle just straight. Don't do that, by the way.
And blend the whole thing together to make chili
Don't
paste.
recommend
Then
it.
we're going to brown some ground round. I'm kidding, this is probably chuck. It's more fun to say though. Then in the fat from the beef, we're going to saute some onions, add some garlic, add some tomatoes, add the chili paste.
Hey,
and
we got some
there
good
you go.
chili.
Very basic, but very delicious chili. Which of course we're going to season after simmering
that
for at
looks
least
good.
45 minutes. Next up, we need to make some red sauce for the pizza element of the Sloppy Jessica. Again, we've made red sauce in many
How would you
different
make the-
iterations on this show before. The basic idea is finely mince
guess
a
the cheese
small
would be in
onion,
it.
saute for a few minutes until soft, crush in a clove or 2 of garlic and saute for an additional 30 seconds or until fragrant, and then add your tomatoes. I'm going with a 50-50 mix of diced and pureed tomatoes. Also, I'm going to throw in a little bit of dried oregano and a whole sprig of basil. Simmer for 45
there's a
minutes to an
leaf.
hour until slightly
There's a leaf in my food. Have y'all seen those videos where they have the basil leaf in their thing? And they're like, oh my gosh, you have a plant in here. Yeah, it's supposed to be.
thickened and the acidity of the tomatoes has abated. Next up, mac and cheese. Now, a close examination of the sandwich indicates that it's not actually macaroni elbows like usual, but ziti. I mean, it's not like they were exercising
Ooh, I do like
restraint
some
when they
big ziti.
designed this sandwich. Once the pasta's cooked, drain and set aside so we can make a roux for our cheese sauce. Equal parts, in this case, 3 tablespoons each of butter and flour, toasted together for about 30 seconds until the sort of raw flour smell goes away, and then slowly streaming in maybe 3 cups of whole milk, whisking the whole time
I don't have
until
the
a
patience
thick
for
sauce
that.
forms. Make sure you scrape the corners so you don't miss
I just
any
don't eat
of
the
that
leaf.
roux hiding out. Whisk until thoroughly combined and starting to thicken. Add a little bit of dried mustard, a few dashes of hot sauce if you're feeling frisky. Keep whisking as the mixture heats up, and then it's time to add the cheese. I'm going with a solid pound of grated yellow cheddar
Oh, that
along
looks
with
good, though.
maybe 4 or 5 ounces of grated
Astro.
Parmesan. Adjust as necessary for optimal cheesiness before adding the pasta to the mixture
bowl
and
of-
mixing until
ball
evenly
of
coated,
noodles.
trying very, very hard not to eat the whole thing in one sitting. Of course, season with salt and pepper before serving or stuffing into a sandwich. Pizza is listed as a component to this sandwich, so I'm thinking we make French bread pizza as our sandwich
Aw.
scaffolding. And the way I like to make my French bread pizza is starting with a layer of mozzarella, then hitting it with the sauce, thus preventing sauce bread saturation.
sounds like
And because I apparently don't
pizza?
give a shit about my health anymore, another layer of mozzarella and some freshly
Whoa.
grated Parmesan placed into a 425 degree Fahrenheit oven. While that guy's going, we need to make chili mac. What is chili mac? Well, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
It's
chili mac's
chili
fine.
with macaroni and cheese.
But all
Just in case you
together,
thought it was like
though?
cold macaroni and cheese or something. Anyway, our French bread pizza's out the oven, so naturally it's time to top it with
French spice,
a
you need
whole
enough.
bowl of chili macaroni and cheese. And now we got to try to close this thing up. On our first attempt, we're going to burn our precious little fingers, ow. But then we're going to take a
Wait!
deep breath, grow a pair, and turn this
Are you not going to wait for it to cool before you just touch it?
into something resembling a sandwich. We're going to cut it in half because it'd be physically impossible to eat it in its current
It's
state.
too
And then as we promise ourselves we're going to
goopy.
research salads
Blech.
for future episodes of Binging
And the
with
cheese
Babish,
looks
we
nice,
dig in
though.
like the monsters we know we are. And as you can imagine, this guy joined the Clean Plate Club. It was
Eat the whole thing.
damn near impossible to eat this entire thing, but you know what? I'm really glad I did it, and I'm just kidding. Of course, I cut it up and shared it with my friends. Serving this
okay.
sandwich is one of the few ways you can be both a really good and a really bad friend at the same time.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. I think it's too much for me. A little bit too much for me. Yeah. Oh. Now he shared it with his friends. He shared it. I was supposed to say I could take one bite maybe, and that would be it for me. Ancho chili is a dried, sweet, mild chili pepper known for its wide shape, which gives it the name in Spanish. Gives it its name in Spanish. Hold on, I have to hiccup. Oh, it has a deep mahogany red to black color and unique flavor with the fruity plum-like notes along with sweet and smoky undertones. Commonly used in Mexican and Southwestern cuisine. Ancho is versatile, used whole, pureed, or ground in sauces, moles, soups, marinades, and rubs to add complexity to dishes. Thanks for the flavor profile, Trey. Heartburn on a bun. That's what it is. Thank you for putting it in words for me. Because I'm like, why do I feel dying? Why am I feeling this right now? Too much in one sitting until you reach the point of pure self-hatred every Thanksgiving. Every Thanksgiving. It's like, I really can't eat anymore, but I really want like 12 more bites of each item. And a whole slice of pie. And cookies. And more bread. I'm exploding. Okay, we got an Adventure Time sandwich.
I am ready to receive instruction from the realm of creation above me. For the sandwich I am about to conceive, I am open. Use me.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish, where this week we're taking a stab at Jake's perfect sandwich from Adventure Time, which of course starts with a steak sous vide. So we've got a nice boneless ribeye here that we're going to salt and pepper before placing into our vacuum sealed bag with both thyme and rosemary. I'm going to distribute those on each side of the steak. We're going to vacuum seal it and place it into a 135-degree sous vide. Normally I'd want to go for more like 115, but hey, Jake's the sandwich expert, not me. About the only birds that I'm going to be able to find to eat in New York City are pigeons, and I'm not going to eat those. So I've got a Cornish game hen here that I'm going to debone and broil so we can put it on the sandwich and eat the entire thing whole. Deboning a whole chicken is hard, but deboning a Cornish game hen is more like surgery. I do not recommend anybody ever try doing this ever. If you're going to try this at home, just use a couple chicken thighs or something. Next up, we have the interesting challenge of how to tackle lobster sole. I would imagine that lobster sole is a pretty...
You're just having... What? Land, air... What? Sky, land, and... What? Like... Sea? What's it called? Surf and turf with... Sky?
These mellow lobster flavors, so to me that meant making lobster aioli, lobster solioli, lobster soli, whatever. Break up the shell of one lobster tail and cover with vegetable oil before blending into little pieces and simmering for about 45 minutes on the stove top until you are greeted with lobster-flavored oil. This has lots and lots of delicious applications, but we're going to use it to make a sort of lobster mayo. So we're going to squeeze a lemon into 3 egg yolks, blend to combine, and once the oil is cooled, we're going to drizzle it gently down the side of the cup until it settles on top, and then blend on high speed until we get a nice creamy lobster solioli. There is, of course, bacon on this sandwich, and I roast my bacon in the oven so I can render all the fat, and now I get to brush it on top of our Cornish game hen that I'm going to throw in.
I'm impressed he got all the bones out and left it in one solid piece. I'd be like, nah, forget the legs. I'm just getting those off.
The broiler for about 10 minutes or until browned and cooked through. Some sweet onions play 2 roles here, both as a sandwich topping and as a way to try and elicit some tears for salt. So I'm going to rub a bunch of stingy stuff in my eyes until, finally, I yield a drop of salty face water.
What?
We're finally getting ready to assemble our sandwich, so we're going to torch our sous vide steak so it's got a little bit of color on it and isn't so gray and nasty. And keep your torch handy because we're going to slice open our massive loaf of bread and hit that with the torch as well. I don't really recommend...
Do you not want the Babish cheers in your sandwich?
And this, it was not an efficient way to toast the bread. I would just throw it in the oven, but it was kind of fun to do until my torch ran out of fuel. Spread both sides of the bread with cream cheese before slicing up some dill pickles and shingling them on one side of the sandwich while picking some fresh dill and sprinkling that over the other side of the sandwich. Some chopped up hard-boiled eggs, our quote-unquote bird from the window, some common cucumbers sliced thinly, sweet yellow onion,
We need a whole steak
sliced Roma tomatoes, and now the tricky part,
hold it together.
laying our steak on top. This thing's starting to get a little precarious.
You don't get the
Some
fat
real
out?
teardrops for salt, not totally necessary, but I'm a completist. And then our lobster solioli, and of course about a half pound of bacon. At long last, it's time to finally top up our sandwich, squish it down, and achieve maybe the greatest cross-section in the history of this show. You can't hear me, but I'm giggling.
I mean, that looks really good. Not gonna lie. I would totally try this. However, I kind of wish that the fat from the steak was kind of cut out, or else you're just going to get a bite of fat in there.
Like a little girl right now because I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to actually take a bite of this thing.
Yeah,
it's not exactly physically possible. But I'm no quitter, so I'm going to slice off sort of a piece of this sandwich and try to roll it into a shape that I...
Just make it a deconstructed, deconstructed sandwich should be fine.
I can fit in my face. Now, I was a little stunned by my first bite. It was a lot of flavors and textures all happening at once, but it was a pretty damn good sandwich. For dinner that night, I took it apart and ate it in pieces like a 4-course meal.
Oh, it's just a lot of food. Unhinge your jaw and eat it Shaggy style. I'm pretty close to that, probably, the way my jaw is. Can't open it straight. If I open it halfway, it gets crooked, I can just rip it out, be fine. Best pairing for any food is Gamer Subs, which you can use code SPIT to get 10% off of. Exactly. Cornish game hens go great in chicken soup. I've never had a Cornish game hen. I've had chicken. Just chicken. Is it tasty? Is it... I know it's called a game hen, but does it have, like, that really gamey flavor? Like a... I guess... I don't know. Would it have more gamey, or is it just chicken? No? I figured it didn't, but I wasn't sure. Because, yeah. Never had it before. Hydrate. Thank you for the head pat. Delicious. Enjoy your follow, woman. Thank you, Exo. Thank you for the follow. Thank you. Hope you're doing well today. It's just a different breed of chicken. Oh, got you. Shawarma. Have I had shawarma? No, I don't think so. I have no idea. Stretch. Oh. As you can stretch. Oh. I can't find my cursor. You got stuck.
You ever tried shawarma? There's a shawarma joint about 2 blocks from here. I don't know what it is, but I want to try it.
At the city in ruins, go find the most intact shawarma place.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish, where this week we're taking a look at the shawarma from the Avengers. First things first, much like the Palestinian chicken from Curb Your Enthusiasm, we need to make a yogurt-based marinade. Excuse me while I get the yogurt out the fridge. There we go. We're putting 2 cups of yogurt into this medium glass bowl. And then for both the sake of flavor and browning, we're adding half a cup of extra virgin olive oil, along with the requisite fresh garlic, 8 whole cloves in fact, crushed like the spirits of the Avengers when they first face off against Thanos. I'm not pandering, you're pandering. Anyway, we're seasoning our yogurt mixture with about 1 teaspoon each of ground sumac, cumin, coriander, cinnamon, and allspice. If you want extra points, go ahead and toast and grind these fresh, but frankly, I'm not in the mood. I will, however, grate 1 small onion, adding it to the party before hitting the marinade with the basics, fresh ground pepper and kosher salt. Just sort of visualize the amount of chicken that you're going to be marinating and add salt and pepper accordingly. Speaking of which, chicken thighs. Gotta go thighs because we're going to be cooking this whole affair low and slow until browned and tender. Chicken breasts, quite simply, are not up to task. Go ahead and tightly cover that and let marinate in the fridge for at least 2 hours, if not overnight. During which time we need to make some fresh pita bread. This method comes courtesy of Chef John, my hands-only culinary brother from another mother. Into the bowl of a stand mixer, we're combining 150 grams of flour, 1 cup of water between 90 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and 1 packet of active dry yeast, whisking to combine and creating a slurry that we're going to let sit for 20 minutes or until it has become bubbly and foamy, alive with yeast activity. Now to the sponge, we're going to add 1 1/2 tablespoons of olive oil, and we're going to weigh out 225 additional grams of all-purpose flour. And you should probably measure this, but I just threw in a few pinches of kosher salt. Affixing my dough hook, adding the aforementioned flour, and kneading this guy for 5 to 6 minutes until a smooth, supple ball of dough forms. I love saying that. Smooth, supple ball of dough. And I'd recommend adding the vast majority of the flour, but not all of it. And if it's too sticky, if it's sticking to the sides of the bowl, add a little bit more flour until it looks a little something like this. Tacky, but not sticky. Anyway, we've got our...
In the land of Earthrealm. Hello, potion seller. I am going into battle, and I want your strongest potions. My potions are too strong for you, traveler. Potion seller, I am telling you, I need your strongest potions. I'm going into battle. I'm going into battle and I need your strongest potions. My strongest potions would kill you, traveler. You can't handle my strongest potions. You better go to a seller that sells weaker potions. Potion seller, what do I have to tell you to get your potions? Why won't you trust me with your strongest potions? Potion seller? I need them if I'm going to be successful in battle. My dear traveler, the only way I will sell you my potions is if you use code SPIT at checkout to save 10% off of your purchase. That is the only way. Then it shall be done. I will use code SPIT at checkout to save 10% off of my purchase. Thank you. And the traveler went and won their battle with the help of the amazing Gamer Subs.
Like this. Tacky but not sticky. Anyway, we've got our smooth, supple ball of dough that we're going to turn out onto a floured surface, form into a little ball, and place in a lightly oiled glass bowl. Or a non-glass bowl, it really doesn't matter. Just roll your ball of dough around a little bit so it gets evenly coated in oil, cover, and let rest in a nice warm room for 2 hours or until doubled in size. That's a way to give us plenty of time to focus on our shawarma.
How warm does the warm room have to be?
Accoutrement. First up, tibuli salad. We're going to finely chop maybe 3/4 of a pound of cherry tomatoes. And thanks to some very astute tips from Serious Eats, we're going to start by salting these tomatoes. This is going to help them weep away a lot of their excess moisture, which otherwise would make the salad a little bit soggy. So place those in a fine mesh sieve over a measuring cup. We want to save that tomato water. And we're going to do the same thing pretty much with some freshly chopped parsley. Hit it with a little bit of kosher salt, and we're going to put these guys in a paper towel lined bowl. We don't need to save the moisture here. We're just trying to get it out. While both of
You don't want the parsley juice like the tomatoes?
These guys drain for 20 minutes. We're going to chop up the remaining ingredients in our tibuli. That being some finely minced cucumber, some finely minced scallion, and some finely chopped mint. This stuff can be made slightly ahead of time, but it's recommended that you leave the tomatoes for the last step if you're making it a few days in advance. I'm not entirely sure why, it's what the internet told me to do. That being said, I'm eating all of this stuff right now, so let's add the tomatoes, give it a little mix, and then we need to add our cooked bulgur wheat that we're going to cook by boiling the reserved tomato water, 1/4 cup's worth, adding it to 1/4 cup's worth of bulgur wheat and letting it sit for 1 hour.
Boiled tomato water? Why does this sound odd? Why does it sound...
Then once the grains are nice and toothsome, we're going to ignore the balls of dough in the foreground, don't worry, that's going to come later, and add the bulgur wheat to the tibuli, seasoning with a little bit of olive oil, some freshly ground pepper, kosher salt, of course, just a little bit since we already salted our tomatoes and parsley, and a little sprinkle each of coriander seed, allspice, cinnamon, and cumin. Give it a little mix, and it's time to fridge this guy while we continue to ignore the balls of dough in the foreground and make accoutrement number 2 of tahini. This is quite simply 1.5 cups, 2 cups of sesame seeds that we've toasted in a dry pan, added to a food processor once they've cooled, and processed into a thick paste, to which we're going to add a little bit of neutral flavored oil. I'm going with grapeseed oil. You could use sesame oil if you really want to up the sesame flavor, and let that process for 3 to 5 minutes until smooth and creamy like an old natural peanut butter. And there you go, tahini, a condiment that's going to stay deliciously fresh for months, if not years, kept sealed in an airtight jar. Now, as you can see, our dough has doubled in size, and as you might guess, we're about to get those dough balls going. Let's turn our dough out onto a floured surface, pat down into a sort of rectangle, and divide equally into 8 pieces using a bench scraper or literally any sharp object you have laying around. Now we're going to form those 8 pieces into little dough balls, thus providing catharsis and understanding to the audience members that were confused about seeing them a couple minutes ago. We're then going to let these guys rest under a sheet of plastic wrap for about 30 minutes until they have again doubled in size. Ding! You know, kind of like that. Oh geez, Chef John said oil your plastic wrap and I didn't listen. Anyway, it doesn't matter because we are rolling these guys out anyway. I'm placing them to the side so we can get our burner in here and get a skillet going over medium-high heat until super hot so we can fry these up. Almost like we're making tortillas. We're rolling them out nice and thin and dropping them onto a very hot surface, letting them bubble up a little bit on one side. You can see that the whole piece of bread starts to sort of thicken, and then these larger bubbles start to rise up, which is a good sign that the underside is starting to blister and turn brown. Give it a little check with your spatula and flip. Now, if you did everything absolutely perfectly and you're very lucky, The pita will rise, creating the signature pocket we all know and love. But even if it doesn't, these are still going to be delicious, so just let them fry up and stack them high on a plate to keep them warm and soft. As we move on to make accoutrement number 3 of 3, tzatziki sauce. This is a very simple sauce made of finely chopped or shredded cucumber, some nice thick Greek yogurt, maybe about a cup and a half worth. Go ahead and add the cucumber, and then we're going to bring a couple other simple flavors to the party. How about the juice of 1 whole lemon? And of course, one of my favorite fresh herbs, dill. We're going to finely chop a solid handful's worth, and because your garlic crusher is in the dishwasher, grate in a couple cloves of garlic. This is a great recipe to eyeball and experiment with because I can guarantee, no matter how crazy the proportions, it's still going to be pretty good. And of course, every shawarma I've had in New York City has been accompanied by infuriatingly cubed tomatoes and sliced cucumber. Now you could just bake or grill your chicken. Those would be both great options, but why not go for the real thing? For a mere $89 on Amazon, you can get a shawarma machine that you will never ever use again. It comes with a lovely spit onto which you can impale your
He could have probably used that a little bit for the giant Krabby Patties that he was making.
Marinated chicken thighs, trying to keep them as even as possible, but I suspect this takes many years of practice, or maybe like a long weekend of practice. Anyway, we're turning this thing on and letting it do its thing for a solid hour and a half, until the outermost layer of chicken is fully cooked, browned, crisp, and delicious. Now, sometimes shawarma is fried again after being carved off the spit, but I think that's just so restaurants can repurpose
carved off for me
shawarma that isn't so freshly carved. Anyway, we've replaced our meat column into its turntable of hotness, and it's time, at long last, to put everything together. We have our array of vegetables, pita, and sauces, and I'm going to load it up high with a little bit of everything, drizzle some tahini over the top, and dig in. Now, this is meant to feed a few people, and it's also a handheld food, so I can't quite award it the Clean Plate Award, but I will give it the Clean Hand Award, because I downed one of these things without even thinking about it. And another one after the camera stopped rolling, and another one the next morning. Don't judge.
Not judging.